All right, welcome, folks. This is Cheo Tayemba. Can you hear me? Folks are there. Welcome.
I'm here.
All right. All right. Welcome to another month of Game Changers Films StoryLab seminars. We are really happy to have everybody in the room. Got people I'm still bringing in. Want to share with you the rundown for today. We're gonna go through about maybe almost 2 hours, and we're gonna show some film clips. We're gonna talk about what it takes to make this kind of film. A lot of you probably were invited through Constant Contact and saw that the featured film that we're focusing on this month is a film called Skin in the Game by a very accomplished director, Adisa, my brother, who is somebody I've known for a long time and really talented brother. So we're gonna have him in the house going through some highlights of the film and what it took to get the film made. But mostly it's going to be a regular conversation. And so there will be some clips that we show, but a lot of it is just going to be us in the, in this forum, checking in and talking about just the stories that are being told right now. I have a co-host, and that is Carrington Onyx York. She is a media intern this year with Game Changers Films. Carrington, welcome.
Hello everyone. Great to be here.
Yeah, so at some point, folks, you'll be unmuted and we'll all join in the conversation. But we're gonna hop right into a trailer from Skin in the Game. Let's show that.
Real early, real early. I bust the dumb moves. I got the stupid juice. Jamaican water diamonds on me.
Hey,
Yo, she look like Malibu.
what are you around?
Who the fuck are you?
Lena, Peanut. I used to run with Woody back in the day.
So what, you one of his ex-bitches?
No.
Yeah, you got that snitch jacket on you, bitch. So what, you think you can come around here asking motherfuckers where they at? You know, snitches get stitches. Or did your ass forget that? Man, step the fuck off.
Hold up. Who want the wood? How you doing, Peanut? Long time. Or should I call you Lena? Since you done went all straight on me. Shit. Well, you never said goodbye.
I know. But that wasn't about you. I had issues.
Fuck out of issues. So you go and take up with a motherfucker that put you out on the track selling your ass? Anyway, I heard they got paperwork on your ass. Baby girl, this whole conversation could be going through the wires right now.
There's no paperwork on me, Woody. And I ain't wearing a wire.
How I know that?
So I wanted to also amend that this is not a trailer. This was a scene that Adisa shared with us that he can talk about it a little bit later. We actually will share the trailer a little bit later, but let's jump into who Adisa is, and I'm gonna let Carrington go ahead and do that.
Absolutely. So an award-winning director, producer, and philanthropist, Adisa recently directed his debut feature film, Skin in the Game, a gritty, unflinching, dramatic thriller that explores the underground world of human trafficking. Skin in the Game premiered at Urban World in 2019 and won the Best Director Award at the 27th Annual Pan-African Film and Arts Festival, and was released theatrically in the United States. Adisa received his Master of Fine Arts in Film from New York University's prestigious Tisch School of Arts. Thank you for joining us, Adisa.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So what a powerful scene. I watched your film a couple nights ago, and it was very powerful. I believe the topic is obviously of crucial importance. So thank you for creating art that centers this kind of conversation. But firstly, I wanted to get into your inspiration for the film. I was reading an article about your film, and you mentioned that the inspiration kind of hit close to home after learning some information. So can you expound on that inspiration for the film, where that
Sure,
came from? Absolutely.
sure. You did your research. I had, oddly enough, I was up in Oakland. I was visiting my mother for Thanksgiving weekend. We were having a great time, and then my sister was telling me that we were talking about kids riding the bus and her coming home. Her daughter was 15 at the time, and she wouldn't let her on the bus. She refused to let her ride the bus in Oakland. And I thought, what is this thing about? Because I used to ride the bus as a kid, and maybe there's bullying going on. And she said no. She said there was some guerrilla pimps that would basically snatch girls anywhere. They could be on the bus, they could be walking home from school, but they would snatch them up and then they would throw them into the life being prostitution, right? And sort of in a kidnapping kind of way. So that got my head. It just shocked me. And then she used the word guerrilla pimp. So I had never heard guerrilla pimp before. I'd heard pimp, of course, but the word guerrilla pimp was like just something new for me to hear. So within the context of that week, I came back home to LA, where I currently live, and there was a news report on the news about a 10-year-old girl that was being prostituted, picked up, who was selling herself in LA, and it was on the news report. So within the context of hearing those two things, I said, well, I got to look into this. I got to look into this. And so the deeper I looked into it, I came across another documentary called Very Young Girls. If you haven't seen that, everybody should look at that. It's an award-winning documentary that was featured at Sundance a few years ago. But it was about young girls as young as 9 and 10 years old being prostituted. And so at that point, I was just determined to make a feature on it. And I did everything I could. And I took the approach of, and I do this with all my sort of films, I find the subject, I find the protagonist. I try to find a real life person that I can extrapolate, study, and research. And in this case, I found a woman named Jayla Baxter. Jayla's actually from Oakland too. So it's funny how all this sort of thing kind of, is come together around Oakland, and it's Expedition Boulevard. But so I met Jayla. We started to talking. Jayla was a woman who went out there. She used to be a teen. I don't want to say teen prostitute. That was the word they used in the 80s, and that says that, teens can prostitute, but how can they do that? They're teenagers and they're underage, so they don't have consent to do that for themselves. So these are women that are actually been trafficked, and this is how the vocabulary around trafficking has changed through the years too. So, but Jayla told me, she was trafficked. She was out there in Oakland, the streets of Oakland. She was in the streets of LA, and now she rescued girls. And then that was my point of entry into the story. I was going to do a story that was going to be highlighted around a Black female, which I love the idea of just Black females and protagonists and making them fully developed characters. And she went out there and rescued these girls. And so I centered it around Jayla Baxter, loosely inspired by her story.
Wow. Then, let that be a reminder that these are real people that, these situations happen to. So really important story that you told there. I see that you are using different vocabulary, guerrilla, and, you mentioned the vocabulary that is associated with this kind of sex trafficking culture. But also when I was watching the film, I noticed different characters kind of mentioned that there were sets of rules that one follows when they're in this life, whether, you're the victim or you're the pimp or something. So I'm wondering, as you were doing your research in the field, particularly for such, a dangerous world, how did you go about conducting that research? You know, did you find yourself studying different vocabularies? I know you mentioned you spoke to people that were involved in the life, but I'd love to know a little more about that.
Well, first off, it was very hard to get. I read a lot of books. First off, that was just to sort of, get me present to what was happening. And then as I began to try to get into the trafficking world, and first from organizations that were rescuing girls, Saving Innocence, and there's the Long Beach Human Trafficking Task Force. But it was hard because I think they saw me as a filmmaker and maybe somebody who was looking to re-exploit these girls, like tell a story, but re-exploit it, if you will, for entertainment value. And that was the farthest thing from my mind. It was really about exposing this story, sharing it, and having it be a cautionary tale for young girls. But it became a very like, I'm trying to get in and nobody would let me in. Even those organizations, seasoned organizations that are out there about rescuing these girls, I couldn't get in. And then I was fortunate enough to meet a guy named Patrick Erlandson. And Patrick is just doing wonderful work around fathers and how important it is because a lot of these girls, what you find out is that 90% of them that have been trafficked don't have fathers in their lives. So that becomes like this dominant theme, or it becomes sort of a common denominator with all of them. So Patrick is now doing work to sort of on the prevention end, helping men step up to the plate, become better fathers, become a presence in their lives. And so I met Patrick and we hit it off. And then Patrick introduced me to Jayla Baxter, and I was fortunate enough. And then I went to see her speak, and her story was just profound. I mean, the level of trauma that she had gone through. And I mean, it's just, I mean, yeah, it was deep. I mean, I was writing the script and my wife wouldn't even read the script. She wouldn't read it. And she was pregnant at the time with our child. So it was a little too close to home with her. And so then, and even after we had the baby and I was doing the rough cuts of the film, she refused to see it. It wasn't until we screened the film like almost a year and a half later that she came to the premiere and saw it. So I know just for a fact that this was going to be a hard subject matter for people to even swallow, like let alone, they really try to brush it under the rug, but it's all around us. It's everywhere. But I knew it was going to be a tough pill to swallow, but I didn't want to shy away from it. And so, yeah, that was sort of my foray. And then once I met Jayla introduced me to other people, and then she introduced me to girls that she had rescued. And so then I just took a deep dive and met the people that made up this world. And if you notice in my movie, the female trafficker, the trafficker is not a male, it's a female, right?
Yeah.
And so I took that particular approach because in this world, money is the driving factor. It's like, so if you want money, if you're greedy, if you're going to do anything to get it, like, yeah. So women are traffickers too. Women, you see parents. I've met women that have been trafficked by their parents, their father and their mother, their grandmother. This girl staying with her grandmother, and her grandmother saying, nobody stays here for free. Well, the girl couldn't stay with her mother no more because she put her out, and she's staying with her grandmother, and her grandmother was saying nobody stays here for free. And so now, what is she supposed to do, right? So she finds herself, selling herself for sex. So, and giving her grandmother rent money. So it's like it takes all types. But I put that particular spin on it just to remind people or to show people that, that anybody can be a trafficker. It doesn't regardless of race, creed, color, or gender.
So I want to jump in. Carrington asked Adisa a question. So, for folks who are listening, we're going to take you off mute, and this is, like I say, we're going to have a full conversation. But I want to jump in and show the trailer, the theatrical trailer that you put out there, and it has kind of for me, it has a different. I want folks to see it, and then I think there'll be some questions because I think this is. It's not an easy subject to deal with, especially in kind of a commercial Hollywood quote unquote film. And so I was just struck by some of the choices you made in terms of even the girl in this trailer. So let's show it, and then we can talk about it.
Danny,
What?
I'm Justin's homeboy.
Pimps only scared of two things. They scared of losing their money and life in the penitentiary. Because you can't pimp in the penitentiary.
Danny?
Hi, this is Sharon. I'm Danny's mom. I was wondering, have you seen Danny or is she with you? I can't find her.
Who are you? Where's Justin?
Danny's missing. She was talking to this older man online and then they met up and now I can't find her anywhere.
The goddaughter that I've been banned from ever seeing again.
Sunshine here, she's gonna be a big money maker, you mark my words.
I filed the report. The officer told me to just keep my phone near me and wait.
It takes 48 hours to turn a girl out. It's a girl. She's been snatched. She's only 15. But she's special to me.
She is a child. You let her go and give her a chance at a normal life.
Game's the game. And always will be.
The streets is dangerous. It ain't like it used to be, Peanut. Them boys bad news over there.
I'm bad news, too. I'll do what I have to do to get a girl out.
Yeah, great. So what I wanted to do is quickly, because we got you for 2 hours and I want to just be as efficient, but they say a trailer is ideally a whole film in 90 seconds. If you cut it the right way, you're going to be able to get, a really good idea of the story. But I also know that you had to make certain choices in terms of how you were going to cut that trailer. Without getting too deep in the woods and weeds, can you talk a little bit about the choices that were made, if any, and then I'm gonna, in fact, we can actually take people off, mute, and we'll go into open conversation.
Well, I think I know where you're going with it, and let's just if this is a garden and we're growing students and we're sharing information, and hopefully everybody will be more enlightened and better for having this workshop, this exchange that we're having. We'll just get right to it. And so the weeds, getting deep into the weeds, the choice for the trailer actually happened in the script stage, because initially Lena, my lead protagonist, the struggle was between her and her sister. They were two African-American women, and they had been estranged for years. And then Lena's sister, who was another African-American woman, her daughter goes missing through a trafficker, right? And so then they have to come together, or her sister has to reach out to Lena after not having talked to her for years and go looking for her daughter on the street. So, because Lena was trafficked. But the producers didn't feel that was going to be a marketable way to go with the movie. And so they suggested, and I say suggested, that we put a white character in there, and because it would, the way they view our movies sometimes, and I guess from their point of view, it's just like they think it's just an all Black movie, right? Yeah. And so they don't see no entry point for them. And we can talk more about that too, because I'll tell you something. That was the first sort of hit I took. There was another hit that happened later after we started editing that I'll share. Please remind me to share that particular story with you too.
Yeah. But I want to get into, sorry, go ahead.
No, so I just, so when I say, the trailer, so it's really started, the rewrite started with my idea early on in terms of introducing that white element. And just so you know, when I do my research, a majority of the girls being trafficked, so we make up we don't make up a majority of the population, of course, but we're a majority of the women being, and boys, let me say that too, boys are being trafficked. They're African-American, they're people of color. And so I wanted to highlight that.
Yeah.
But producing entity didn't see it like that.
Yeah, yeah. So just some housekeeping. I know that Carrington, you might have had one follow-up question. If not, then if you do, we can ask that. But then I also know that we have some four kind of, I guess, linchpin or like four quality scenes or structural scenes, I guess they were, that you've pulled up, but we're going to get into those after we take some questions. So
yeah, sure. So really quickly, I'll just go through my last question, which was centered around the longevity of your career. This is something you've been doing for a good minute, as we like to say, minute meaning much longer than a minute. But my question is, what does it take to sustain your dream and stay in the industry of filmmaking year after year after year?
My wife said to me the other day, she said, "You must really, really love this." She said, "You must really love it." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Because you are in this thing. You are in this thing." It takes more than, it's more than a dream. I mean, really, I mean, it has to become something of a passion or something that really, something you have to do. I would say that, because if it's not something you have to do, if it's something you just feel like it could be fun or you just want to do for a minute, when the times get rough, that's not going to sustain you. And then in my case, when you look back over 22 years, you begin to say, and now I've done one feature. I graduated NYU, and then I did some shorts, and then I jumped in. This is my first feature, independent feature that I did. I was fortunate enough to be financed through Ava DuVernay's producer. He had produced some of her early work, and then years later, he decided he wanted to help young filmmakers out. And so I was able to get him my script, and he produced it for me. But we're talking about 22 years. And in that amount of time, you know, I've done a lot of stuff. I've been an art director. I've been in the art department. I've gripped. I've been sound supervisor on films and features. I mean, you name it. And so
every day you're hustling. That's how it is, right? Every day you're hustling.
Brother,
So,
if I told you the short of it, I got in here, you called me earlier this morning. I got in at 9 o'clock this morning from an overnight. I was on set last night on an overnight doing a show, you know, but I'm committed to this. I'm committed to the craft. I'm committed to growth and development. But yeah, so I did two projects yesterday and an overnight. But no, it takes more than that. But my love came early on when I first saw Spike Lee's work. I mean, it was just undeniable. I saw She's Gotta Have It. And I don't know how I heard about that independent film. I'd never even seen independent film up until that point. And I saw how distinct his voice was. And I saw how it moved the culture forward. I saw how we as Black people could have an imprint and have our own voices. I mean, you see it a lot now with Lena Waithe and these other shows like The Chi. But back then, it was just like, it was nowhere to be found. And so, and that sticks with me to this day. It's just like, I'm just very passionate about, you know, if not us, then who? If not now, then when? So I take on that responsibility.
Well, when would be now. I know there's a question, at least one question up. My boy Rick Roach. So if you want to go ahead and ask your question, and somebody asked in the chat if, I don't know, you may not be able to change, Adisa. I think it says iPad instead of your name on your ID. I think that somebody was asking, but if you can't change it, I mean, we know who you are.
Okay.
But
I can look at it. Let me see if I can fix it.
So you're gonna press the three dots on your little visual where it shows you, and then press rename, and you should be able to update it from iPad to Adisa.
Okay, yeah, I just saw the three dots. Let me see. Rename, disconnect, background, maximize chat, meeting setting, disconnect audio. I'll keep looking. And then,
So Rick, you got a question?
Well, a little bit of a question, but I also just want to, you know, give a lot of flowers to Adisa, because I mean, we probably have about the same amount of time in the industry, and I just know how hard it is and how much a grind it is. I don't think that people understand the level of commitment you have to get this amount of tenure in the business. It's not about, you know, the people you know or the celebrities you meet, or it's not like the TV show where you go on the Entourage and they go ask for a check and the next thing you know, you're making a movie. It's about getting permits. It's about getting, you know, state tax incentives. It's about knowing when you can shoot, how to shoot. If you're shooting in some areas, you might have to get sign off by people who are running those areas. So I know how difficult it is. But one of the things I really wanted to say was, you know, in light of your subject matter, did you get any pushback from distributors who were looking at the product and thinking this might touch too close to home, or were they welcoming it as they've welcomed other films that have touched on this manner? Just wanted to see how your receptivity was.
Yeah, no, very good question. So, you know, usually what happens is when you make the movie, you want to get the most shine on it and the most light. So you wait to go to the premier film festivals, like you try to go to Sundance or Tribeca or South by Southwest. Those are like the ones that give you shine. You know, Ryan Coogler to Fruitvale Station to Sundance, and you know, he gets all this light on him. So that's what you hope for. But that takes time. So when we submitted to those big festivals that year, I didn't get accepted into one of them, and I had hopes that I would. And my producer had screened and premiered Ava's work there, but that didn't give us any cachet. It didn't give us any cachet at all. You know, you find out that the festivals are about nepotism too. There's a lot of stuff going on, but backdoor festival, you know, people getting into festivals, they know people, relationships, et cetera. That's not just disparage anybody from doing quality work that don't get in, but I'm saying there's other factors in play. And those factors may not have been in play. They may just thought my film, you know, in some cases like a Sundance is like that year may not be a trafficking year. You know, it may be about, you know, Black comedy or a Black, you know, whatever, you know what I mean? So, but that for first year, I didn't get into any of the big festivals. And so I did get into Pan African Film Festival that first year, but there was a conflict because I hadn't heard back from Sundance. And so I told Pan Africa, I can't premiere you there. And it wasn't that I couldn't, but it was like, yeah, I was trying to give my film the best shot at winning in this game called, you know, film. And so I passed on Pan Africa, and I've got the notice in, like, I think it was in November, December, that I didn't get in Sundance. And so then we waited for Tribeca, and then we waited for Toronto, and then they all passed. And finally, then once that year of just waiting to get into those big festivals passed, then we started to submit to the other festivals. And so I ended up premiering at Urban World and in 2019. And then I won Best Director at Pan Africa that same year for my film. And then we went out to the studios with the film. We had a rep, and we went out to the studios, and everybody that saw it passed on it. And so then we ended up having to, we independently distributed the movie. We did get a theatrical release, but that was my producer. We met with some distributors that took the film on, and then we premiered. We had a limited theatrical release, like we premiered maybe in 10 theaters across the United States.
Post-COVID?
So I want to jump in quickly, because I know that we can talk inside baseball, inside film for a while, but I know that there's some folks who are new to filmmaking, and okay, you know, and this has been very informal. I think as we get more people in this online seminar, it'll be challenging. But I do want to have everybody who wants to introduce themselves now. I want to give that the opportunity, because we've had that in the past. So feel free to come out behind your, whatever we can't see your face, but if you want to share your face or just ask a question or introduce yourself, I want to give people an early opportunity to do that, and kind of why you're here would be great, because after that we're going to hop in and show another clip, about a 8 minute clip.
And then let me just put a button on that. So in terms of the subject matter, it was very challenging because it's about sex trafficking. That's taboo. It's a drama. So in some cases, dramas can be taboo too. People just like the comedies and the rom-coms, the romantic comedies. So it's like, so I had some things going against it a little bit. Like when you watch Taken, the movie Taken with Liam Neeson, that's about trafficking too. But how are they pitching that movie? Action adventure, right? Liam Neeson, action movie, action. So the trafficking is there, but it's really about the action. So for me, the trafficking was up front, right? So, we can talk more about that
That's
later.
a good point.
So that becomes when you're making your movie, you should be thinking early on too. And they talk about this in writing books too. How are you going to sell it? Don't think about it at the tail end. Think about it at the beginning and how are you going to market your movie? How are you going to sell it? That's why name actors come into play so much in terms of getting a movie financed or not getting it financed. And when you get into the theater, some people aren't even going to see the movie per se, but they're going to see that particular actor. So there's just a note there to be thinking about, before you even make the movie. But I knew that going in, or even if I didn't know it and I was hopeful and sort of naive about it, my producer told me every step in the way, this is going to be a hard sell. He had no qualms about it. He told me it was going to be a hard sell, and it was. It was sort of a uphill battle to get out.
Okay. Well, I didn't hear anyone jump in to introduce themselves or say why they're here, but that's fine. We're going to have an open forum after. But if you want to set up these clips, and let me before you do that, actually, let me say that I think I didn't say it at the outset, but the Game Changers Film StoryLab seminar is we're co-hosting this, and this is a great partnership with the Black Cultural Zone in Oakland, and we're going to be screening films starting actually June 17th, outside on the big screen in the heart of East Oakland, and we'll be there, 4 Fridays in a row. I'll mention it again at the end, but I just want to let folks know, like, if you live in Oakland, definitely come out on that Friday night, June 17th. And we'll have filmmakers. Adisa, if you were in town, I know you're in LA, but you'd be able to come and check out some of these.
I'll come out for that for sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, but let's go ahead and set up this, and then we'll roll it.
Okay. These are just 4 clips from the movie. We can talk directing. We can talk blocking after you watch it. I mean, they're not in any particular order. It's just, it's just highlighting performance. Yeah, I put this together a while ago actually to get television work, and so just to give you an idea.
Okay.
Cool.
Well, let's play it.
My boyfriend gave me an iPhone and a TV. Sometimes we just sit in my room all day and watch cartoons. We didn't mess around or nothing. It'd just be the 2 of us.
He gave them to you?
Well, I mean, they were a loan. But we all gotta earn our keep.
I'm just saying, it ain't a gift if it's a loan.
I guess.
Did you have to work to pay it off? How long did it take for you to pay it off?
Well, he gotta pay for the phone bill too. And for the cable.
I'm not judging you. I am you. I'm all of you. I was on the track just like you. And now we're all here. I'm just trying to point out that this is how they sometimes keep control over you. They'll give you things or buy you things, real nice things. But then they set it up to where you can't never pay it off. And that's how they own you. And that ain't love. Ownership ain't love. I know y'all think your boyfriends ain't scared of nothing, that they invincible. But y'all are the ones out there on the track every night, risking your bodies and your freedom, your lives. So who's the real coward? Pimp's only scared of 2 things. Losing his money.
Hell yeah.
Right? Because they sure be standing outside that motel room waiting on you to come out and get that money first. They scared of losing their money and life in the penitentiary. Because you can't pimp in the penitentiary. Think about it. We have more power than we know.
So there's somebody here to see you.
Okay, take a look.
Yeah.
Violet, do you know who Harriet Tubman is?
Yeah. The lady who freed all the slaves.
That's right. You know, she said she could have freed 1,000 more if only they'd known they were slaves.
I'm not going back to him.
Good night, Violet.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Seven times, right?
Yeah, we only have to put up with this 5 more times before she stops trying to go back.
Miss Lena, do you know why I decided to stay here? It's because you said that you would never leave a girl behind. It ain't a lot of people that would do that for us.
That's for the house right there.
Where's my daughter? Bitch, who the fuck are you? Fuck you up, bitch.
And then I'ma fuck you up, bitch. Get off of her. Later.
Now, anything you want to say about that last film, last clip?
Yeah, I just want to, well, first off, I want to acknowledge Kira Kelly. Kira Kelly is an amazing cinematographer, first Black woman to get inducted into the Association of Cinematographers. Yeah, and she shot 13th, the documentary for Ava DuVernay, and got an Emmy Award. So I was fortunate enough to collaborate with her on this project.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was an amazing experience right there. But the last clip was when she busted into the house, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say that, for those interested in directing actors, there's a craft to doing that. And for those interested in doing a feature like I did, there's definitely a process. There's no one way to do it, that's for certain. I mean, as testimony by any other director you talk to, everybody has their own journey. So you don't have to look at your journey and compare it to anybody else's. You may just have another way into the business. It could be through writing. In my case, I was doing sound for years, and that aided to my development as a director. But what I would say is that directing that scene, and just to highlight the lead actress for a minute.
Is it Erica Ash?
Erica Ash, yeah, thanks for that. Erica Ash, I'm just getting my head together from last night. But Erica Ash, when you first, as a director, when you're starting out on a project, what you want to do, this is just a note I'll give everybody, you want to meet with the actor. And you want to ask them, and we're talking just a general meeting, before you get to set and before you start getting into, directing and giving notes, just what is your process? Just sit down really and just, have a chat with them over lunch. It could be, something as simple as that. And I did that with all my actors. And I was just like, what is your process? How do you like to work? In other words, do you like me to give notes in between takes? Do you like, a general lay of the land, how collaborative or etc. And but Erica was one, and I learned her process, and it helps you. I'm sharing that with you. That's some insider stuff, because it helps you tremendously on the set to know that everybody approaches their craft differently, and with all actors they're different. And so it helped me early on to know she didn't like to rehearse. That was just, she didn't like to do it. I had one day of rehearsal between her and the other actress who was playing her best friend, and that just wasn't her process. I mean, she indulged me, and we talked, and I did some bonding exercises with them, but she didn't like to rehearse. That wasn't her thing. She liked to show up fresh, go, boom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. That actually is really good, especially with a sensitive topic like this. It's, it's important. You had to really be very present. So what I wanted to do now was see if we can go to this prompt. In StoryLab, we usually have a prompt, or we usually have, there's people who are attending, obviously, because they're interested in storytelling. People want to, either they're already filmmakers, or they want to figure out the best ways to approach the craft. So we're going to do breakouts. We got enough people. Finally, this is awesome. We got enough people to do 2 breakout rooms. So we're going to do 2 breakouts. And I think I may be in one, and Carrington, maybe you can be in the other, and we can just facilitate just the discussion. We want folks to jump in, and these are some questions I've come up with, but these are, don't feel tied to these questions. It's just going to be an open kind of a forum, and you can share kind of maybe where you're at if you have a project you're working on, or if you don't, then this is a prompt for you. You can start with number 1. So the breakout rooms will come up, and we'll all go into one. We'll do this for, it's 10:48. We'll do it for the next maybe 12 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes, and we'll come back.
Just so I'm clear, so in the breakout rooms, are we sharing the idea, or?
Yeah, so sorry if I wasn't clear. So on that slide that was just up, so it was basically, what is your concept for a film if you have one, right? Because I think people get ideas from all kinds of places, and then you're like, well, this could be a film. And I don't know, maybe we can bring that back up. Let's bring it back up. So I know there's a block there. We'll get rid of that in a second. There it is. So the first one is, what is your concept for a film? If you have one, right? The second one is, why do you want to tell this story? And then what is the biggest challenge to starting? Because part of this seminar is really to build community, and for folks to, share, what are their obstacles? What's the roadblocks? And, because we know we started at the beginning, just talking about how long we've been in this business and how challenging it is just to stay in it, right? You need to have a support network. So what is your concept for a film if you have one? And then why are you passionate, and why do you want to tell that story? And what's the biggest challenge? And let's say we'll go, and if people want to take a break to get your thoughts together, because I think everybody should be able to be unmiked. So if you want to put it in the chat, like, this is, trying to make this, we want this to be a democratic, collaborative effort. But if people feel like we need to take a break, we can do that for a couple of minutes, or we can go right into the breakout. I know we only have an hour left, so I felt like it'd be good to go into the breakout.
And Cheo, in the breakout, is that when we're allowing people to brainstorm on these questions and write it out, and then we're also sharing in the breakout, or are we coming back to share?
We're just going to be talking and sharing, and so I don't know if people have time to write stuff out. I mean, if in 10 minutes, if you have that time, we can do that. But let me see. We have 5 people in each. Yeah, so let's make the breakouts a little longer because there's going to be a lot of sharing. Let's make the breakouts 15 minutes. And since I didn't hear anybody else jumping in, let's go ahead and people go ahead and join the rooms. Or we put in the rooms, I guess.
Okay, I'm just gonna send a request to folks to rejoin the rooms. Give me
Okay.
1 second.
All right. Thanks for putting that in the chat, Carrington.
Absolutely. Okay.
I see.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing? I see it. Are you Patah?
Yes, yes.
I love that name.
Thank you. How you doing, Baba Chao?
You on your phone?
I'm on my laptop.
Okay. Well, we'd love to see you, but that's all
Look,
right.
I don't really have I'm in my room, don't really have a set up yet or nothing. So
That's all right. All right.
Keeping it off. But
And is it Camila?
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And Dwayne, I recognize the names. I think maybe you were recruited by Patah.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. I was.
All right. All right. So, I know who Adisa is. We work together, but I don't know any of you except for Patah. So maybe you can just give us a little, who you are and, why you're interested in in stories and, why you might be, why you're here. But beyond, you got the invitation, but what have you heard so far that you're interested in?
I can go first. Well, I'm a fourth year at UCR, so I'm at Patah. I'm a public policy and sustainability studies double major. I'm actually from Oakland as well. I wasn't sure what the film was about entirely, but after seeing everything, it's really inspiring because I feel like human trafficking is the biggest issue that we have. And seeing it actually get brought into light and addressing some of the problems that we have. And it's crazy because I used to take the bus all the time in Oakland to get to school. And I was really oblivious to all that. Like, I just kept quiet, minded my business, just trying to look around my surroundings. But, it's crazy to see a lot of things hit so close to home.
Yeah. Well, great. Thanks for joining the chat and thanks for being interested in becoming a storyteller. Thanks for being interested in the subject matter at hand.
Yeah. Dwayne?
Hello, everyone. My name's Dwayne Wallace. I'm currently a senior at UCR. I'm actually an English and creative writing major, so I took a filmmaking class. What was it? Yeah, I took a film class in my community college. I actually love Spike Lee. I have I'm so sorry. I gotta show you this because when I heard you say that, I'm a huge Spike Lee fan.
You got the same.
Yeah, look, exactly.
Is that a new book? Is that a new? He just published that?
Yeah.
Where'd you get it? I need to get it. Where'd you get it?
I got it from a friend. My mentor actually, she gave it to me as a birthday gift. She's super lovely. But yeah, I applied for a USC screenwriting program when I was transferring. I didn't get accepted, but I always had
don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up on that. Don't let the programs define you. Don't let the schools define you. Keep going. Do it on your own. Write on your own. Get in a community class writing. I'm sorry to interject like that, but rejection like that is not denial. What deny is not denial. Keep going.
I appreciate that so much, and I think right now, I've just been writing a lot more stories just geared around how I grew up, friends of mine. So I think even the piece that you had made and the things you were talking about and the stories how you were interviewing people. I know for me, it's always hard. I wrote a piece. It's real small. Got published about a friend of mine's, and I remember thinking the whole time other friends had wrote it. I was just man, am I putting like this like sacred piece of someone's like life out there? Like, what am I doing? Like, because obviously I'm not trying to do this for like gain, but I feel like there's a story that needs to be told. So like hearing what you said, like kind of like made me think like, man, like as long as you're kind of always doing it from like a good place, like others will see that and eventually like it will get through. So
Yeah. Awesome, man. I love your energy. And like, that goes far. That's what you need in this business, because you will, and Adisa, you can, tell me what you think, but, between, I would say, 24, 22 and 30, there's a lot of choices. Typically now it's different, right? Things have changed, but there's still a lot of choices you're making about your career. If you're going to do something to make a living, to pay the bills, or if you're going to follow your dreams, do something that, really inspires you. So, and that's, people make that choice early, and then sometimes they never look back. And sometimes they're unhappy where they're working and what they're doing. Patah, what about you?
Before I start, I did have a question for Adisa. Should I save it for until we get back into the bigger form, or
No, you can
is it cool to ask right now?
You know what? Let's save it, because actually the prompt that is in the chat is, again, and I don't know if the three of you have an idea for a film, but that's what we were going to do in this chat. So if you have an idea, we can actually look at those questions now.
Okay, well, my name is Patah. I'm a recent graduate from the University of California, Riverside, global studies major, trying to figure out what's my next moves. Never really considered filmmaking, but I have been a writer. I journal so often, and it's kind of habitual for me at this point. Eventually my thoughts were to make it into some sort of book or a piece to publish, but I could see how it could easily become a story of some sort. And yeah, I guess I do have a question, is what inspired you to start, and what was kind of like your launching point to get into the industry?
Yeah, well, I want to kind of combine you and Dwayne in this one particular answer, because I think the industry, if you have an inclination that you want to do this thing, then that's the vision calling you. That's the vision, right? But I would say, and this is for Dwayne and you too, the act of making, and not to leave you out, Camilla, but I just didn't hear you talk about maybe wanting to jump into filmmaking per se. But if you are, this message is also for you. The act of making a film is an act of war. It's an act of defiance. For Black people to say, I want to make a movie, that's a declaration of war, right? Because just like Dwayne, you apply.
Hop in and start.
Thank you. Is it Aisha?
Yes, that's
Awesome.
correct.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
Going well. We're just about to start sharing with Aisha.
Okay, just checking in.
Hi. So my name is Aisha. My artistry name, I also go by the Aiko, which is the first two letters of my first and last name. To put together, it also means love child. So that's kind of what I've been writing with for the past couple years. I've been doing film since my sophomore year of college. So about 4 or 5 years now. I began with really driving like just storytelling, screenwriting. It was me and my two other colleagues who we both between the three of us, we own our own film production now. And we established that back in 2020 called Plug Productions. And I think we were just trying to figure out every aspect of film. So we did everything from, we didn't even realize we were producing, as well as editing, being the director of photography, and just anywhere from pre to post production. And I think that helped in understanding just the concept, like how we develop our own filmmaking. And for us, it really starts with the conversation of what we're passionate about in terms of what's going on in the world. Because one of the goals that we've had since starting our company, or at least informally back in college, was to just drive a conversation through film and just recognize voices that we don't really see and highlight, which is what I appreciated in Adisa's work as well. And that just really translated over into the concepts of filmmaking. So I'm currently working on a project with my friend from back home. I'm in LA right now. That's where I'm from. But my friend Chase is from Oakland, so she invited me here. So again, thank y'all for providing the space. And I have been exploring more into the music realm. So this is my first time going into a project where I'm the artist and technically my own client. And it's a 5-part series. It's going to be happening throughout 5 songs, and we have a visual album that's going to be released hopefully by the end of May. We have 2 more videos to film, so we're still in the process of that, but it really talks about just the 5 stages of grief and healing. And, you know, especially with what's been going on now and a lot of people being mindful of just their self-care and their help just to be able to fill their own cups up before they pour into anyone else's. And also recognizing and acknowledging the pain that goes through learning these tough lessons. Is something that we've definitely wanted to highlight. And I've been fortunate enough to reconnect with friends that I hadn't seen in 10, 12 years, and just kind of circle our way back to them to really make this project come to life, because we felt like, you know, especially after college, when my 2 friends, again, Chase is in Oakland and my friend Charlotte is in North Carolina. So I didn't really have a team, and I didn't know how to go about doing, you know, finding a producer and finding different crew members that I'm accustomed to and doing, especially with a lot of my background. It's also in live concert making. So it didn't really align in the ways that I had expected to. So I guess my direction in filmmaking is very unconventional. I wanted to ask Adisa this later on as well, but just the politics that happens behind filmmaking is very unsettling for me. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges that I have faced, especially in this past year, because I get pretty adamant about, well, I don't want to follow the conventional ways of how film is supposed to be made, because I don't think it's ethically always correct, for lack of a better use of language. And so I think, you know, like funding my own projects has been difficult. Finding the right producer that won't say, well, I don't think, you know, it's heartbreaking to hear Adisa say that he had to swap out his cast for a white girl because it's not going to be marketed. I was like, huh? that shouldn't be the case, you know, and that changes the entire story and the drive of what the story is. And so for me, I've been in situations like that where they didn't show our film at a festival, even though we won best short film or best audience choice, and they straight up didn't show it at the festival. And I didn't care. I did, but didn't, because I knew that the community would ride for me as well if they felt the story as passionately as we did. So I still go back and forth with it because I also need to make money with this. So it's, yeah, sorry, I kind of jumped around, and I hope I answered all of your questions all in one.
Absolutely. Yeah, you did check off all of the questions. And yeah, that's a very important point that you brought up, just the ethical standards of filmmaking and money versus art. I know we have to get through a few other people, but thank you so much for sharing that, Aisha. If there's
Aisha, that was awesome. I appreciate it. I'm just gonna pop out, but I wanted to. I don't know. Were you the first person to go through the questions? Okay.
Yeah.
We might need some more time, and if everybody's okay with that, I think we had said 15, but maybe we'll come back at maybe another 10 minutes. So. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, what do you guys think? We're good?
Yeah, all right. So,
thank you, Taya.
All right, we'll see you soon.
All right.
And I'll be quick, and I'll get off because I know.
So I want to jump in and just let you know I extended the breakout time just because there's a lot of people, you know, sharing in the other room, and then I know there's other things and some people had some questions for you, Adisa. They're going to hold those questions till we come back, but we got another 10 minutes. But go ahead.
And Camilla, you may appreciate this just coming from a sociological point of view. When we shot the movie, I had Jayla on set every day. And I did workshops with her and the actors. That was because of the trauma. The actors had to go there and experience these characters. And so they would go into places on set in a very dark place. And I'd have to have Jayla there so that when they went through and they went through this emotional cathartic experience, Jayla could bring them back. And she could, kind of deprocess what they were going through. And I had to work with the actors up front to expose them to the world. So so that was invaluable too. And just having her there every day on set also to talk to the girls about what they were going through and what they were experiencing as actors going through these characters was crucial.
What did I miss?
Oh, I don't know. Let's hear from you guys. You guys want to share some more?
I can open it up to another question because it sounds like this group is more, the thing I say is we're all storytellers. I mean, everybody, we tell stories all day. As soon as you get up, somebody tells a story about a text you got. So we're all talking about stories all the time. And I think this is almost like I guess it's a seminar, but it's a way that even if you're a non-filmmaker or you're not in the industry or the profession, say you're a computer science major, or say you want to do, you want to be a diplomat and work overseas, whatever you want to do. The idea of knowing that everything, like being able to dissect a story in the same way you would kind of dissect like any other problem, right? And to look at things that are unfolding in those kind of segments. When we tell stories, the traditional storytelling in kind of like, I would say Hollywood films are the 3-act structure, right? And there's like the first opening act, there's something that happens in the beginning of the film that grabs your attention, in the first 2 minutes. They call it the hook, and something that happens, like somebody falls off a bridge and you're like, what's gonna happen, right? And then at some point, maybe in the first 15 to 17 minutes, there's something else that happens. They call that the inciting incident. And that's like boy meets girl in an elevator. And it's like, oh, this is gonna be a love story. And then I'm locked in. If you go and watch any movie in Hollywood, if you're bored, if you're looking at your watch after 20 minutes, then that means they're doing a different structure. It's like all of our minds and brains have been trained in that structure. And when a movie is slow because we've been trained in that 3-act structure. And so I guess the point I'm making is when you write an essay, is a 5-paragraph essay, like all of these things, when you create an algorithm, like it's about structure is my point, right? And it's about being kind of coherent in how you deliver stories. So I think I don't know, Adisa, is there some other value you think this craft could bring to people who are not filmmakers?
Yeah, I just took a workshop with Haile Garima recently, and through Ava DuVernay's. He's amazing.
You might have to reference Haile Garima. They may not know who that is. And
Haile Garima did a film called, Patah, you better know him, man, with that name, Patah. But Haile Garima did a movie called Sankofa. He's one of our...
yeah, Google that, YouTube it. You can watch it, actually. It's on Netflix, finally, for the first time.
He's before Spike Lee. He really is. He's before Spike Lee, but he also advances the theory that when the Spike Lee came about, that there were thousands of other filmmakers that got left by the wayside. He said, because, Hollywood always likes to choose that one Black filmmaker to highlight, right? So when they choose Spike, and I'm not saying they chose him, I'm saying Spike also advanced himself, but then you have this inordinate attention toward him, and thousands of other Black filmmakers go by the wayside. Right, we don't get the same opportunities. So that's just a flaw in white supremacy. But no, I would say just on the comment I would make on Cheo's point is you have to learn the structure before you can break it. You can, all day long, you can reinvent the structure. You can look at African cinema, you can look at Japanese cinema, you can look at different approaches to cinema. And Haile Garima, the master filmmaker I was just telling you about, he was always about challenging Hollywood structure. He did a movie called The Death of Tarzan. Because he said before he started making movies, he had to kill Tarzan in his mind. Like you couldn't have a white savior in your film, or you couldn't have, like this paradigm where white people were in control, sort of, even in your own destiny. So he had to kill Tarzan. So he did a movie called The Death of Tarzan. And once he killed Tarzan, he was able to now deal with it. But he learned that structure. That's the 3-act structure that Chael was talking about. You learn it so you can break it. You learn it so you can make it more Afrocentric. You learn it so you can make it more from your own place of origin. You know, I mean, you've seen Quentin Tarantino did that, right? Pulp Fiction. Just put the whole thing on his butt. Just boom, 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 boom. But you learn it, and then you can. But I would submit to that. Don't be breaking rules, and you know what I'm saying. You know, Steph Curry changed the game in basketball, but he knew the rules, and then he went ahead and extended it. So first learn the game, and then definitely change it. Definitely. I mean, that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah. And I would say, since a lot of folks really do know about Netflix and Amazon, obviously everyone probably in the world is on those platforms. Not everyone, but there's a lot of people watching films. Haile Garima's, I didn't know this, but you know, his son just produced and directed and has a new film out called Residue. You should Google that. I believe it's on Amazon. And this is something that I think, you know, Gen Z, millennials, all of us can relate to it, but it's a story about a young brother who graduates from college. I think he went to an HBCU, or maybe not, but he graduates from college and he returns home to his hometown. And in this case, it's Washington, DC. And he's just like, he's hit by all the gentrification and his family has to move. And there's just like all these issues that hit him. It's a really good film. And, you know, he's trying to figure out his relationship with his girlfriend, and all these white cats are moving in, telling him, you know, it's like, he's turned the music down, but and the thing is, it's not new because every generation we've had to deal with that. But it's a good film to watch.
And be mindful that I talked to him, and it took him 2 years to make that movie, and he shot it over the course of 2 years. And so, you know, you come back and the actor's grown, the actor's hair's out. I mean, it took him a long time to piece that film together. And I'm saying this respectfully, I'm saying this lovingly, that it came out a good film, but it was in his favor. Usually you got to start out with a strong structure. When you prolong a film and you're writing it in that process, I got lucky with my movie. My ending was not my ending. If you ever see my movie and you see the ending, you call me and say, man, what was your ending? Because I got lucky. Because I didn't have an ending when we were shooting that movie. We were 2 weeks into it, and I had an ending, and I had written on paper. I had a whole police coming up, and I had the sirens, but it wasn't. We didn't have the budget for it, so I was being openly optimistic about it. It was a little bit of a fantasy, and I never really concretely locked it down. Even though it was on paper, I was approaching it like it's going to come together. And guess what? It doesn't just come together. You got to do that pre-production. You got to think that thing through, and it's got to be specific. And yes, there are miracles that happen on set, small miracles and everything. But I got the ending of my movie the day before we shot it. It came to me. I was thinking about it the whole time, but I was talking to my editor about it. We got to do this. We got to do this. Blah 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 blah. And I was like, how are we gonna do that? How are we gonna fit it in? But it gelled to me the day before we shot it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's going with the flow. So speaking of that, I wanted to, you might have mentioned this when I wasn't in the breakout, but did everyone share their majors or what what your next kind of plan is after, what's your major and what you want to do after college? Did they share that?
No.
I would love to know that, because that would, I think, help our discussion. So Dwayne, what about you? What's your major, and what are you planning on doing when you get out when you wrap up college?
So right now I'm English and creative writing. I got 2 more quarters. I'm planning hopefully to planning to go to grad school. I want to be a professor. That's like the goal. And then I picked up creative writing as a second major because I didn't want to do a master, I didn't want to do an MFA, but I still want to write on the side. Because I ultimately feel like teaching's my passion. I've always loved it. I always loved English and learning and things like that. But I also do feel like I want to tell my story, how I grew up. But I think the more I have grown and the older I become, And I think talking to a lot of friends has kind of also turned into the story I want to tell of how it was back then in my city. I'm from Pomona,
Mm,
and I feel like it's changed over a lot in the years.
mm,
And I feel like not just like a lot of buildings and land has been lost, but like a lot of friends of mine who just
mm,
like, didn't make it, slipped through the cracks, things like that. I think for me, especially after I graduated high school, uh, it's real common, like for me at least, like a lot of my old friends are like drug addicts or like in jail or something. So it was kind of just like, coming like out of my like shell and realizing like, damn, that's not normal for a lot of folks. Like if anything, like graduating high school shouldn't have been like the end of the road for me, because I always felt like it was, regardless of being in like programs that are supposed to help you foster, like a better like relationship or education and going to the next level. So I feel like there's a lot to tell, but also feel at the same time like teachers helped me out so much in my life. Like I would love to be that for like a student. So
Great. Wow. Thank you. Camila, what
Camilla?
about you? Did you share?
Well, I am a public policy and sustainability studies double major. I'm actually about to graduate this spring, so I have one more quarter left.
Congrats.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I honestly don't know what I'm going to do right after. I honestly think to myself that every day, what am I gonna do? Where am I gonna go? But
Grad school, maybe? No?
I feel like I need a gap year. I need a break from school.
I heard that.
It's a little much right now, but I similar to Dwayne, like I do want to teach, but I want to teach government and ethnic studies eventually. I feel like a lot of the issues that we have is just because people aren't being taught like about other people's cultures or other people's backgrounds. And I feel like that would, solve a lot of issues that we have once we get out of school and into the real world, decreasing ignorance and just education being, like the solution to everything. I was also considering law school. I would like to be a judge because I feel like, that comes with like a lot of responsibility and change to how a lot of cases end up being decided, and a lot of systemic problems can get, nipped in the butt. But I understand like that's a appointed position. So, there's no guarantee that I'll eventually get there, not to limit myself, but like I am inspired by teaching and just wanting to make change within my community. I'd love to come back to Oakland to do something. I got to figure it out.
Yeah, well, take your time. I'm inspired just hearing both of you. I mean, all three of you here, but just hearing you say you want to teach, because we need that desperately. I think we need it on the college level and the graduate school level, because I think I've noticed it seems like there's the funding for education and getting people who can not only get into college, but then have financial aid to finish college. It seems like it's not prioritized. There's more options, right, that your generation has, because for us it was like, I'm going to college, I'm going to finish, I'm going to grad school. Now it's like, I'm going to grad school, or maybe I'll go work for a startup and get rich. I don't know. So things have changed a little bit, but I know that with AI and with all the other technology, the human touch in the classroom is something that I hope we don't lose 20 years from now. But Tata, did you share yourself?
So I'm a recent graduate. I just graduated earlier this month, global studies major, and my plan is to go abroad. I'm kind of in this weird in between space where I just got back from DC doing an internship with the Association of Diplomatic Studies and Training, which basically captures and shares the oral histories of ambassadors and diplomats overseas. So what I want to do is go overseas. I'm just not sure as to do what yet. Teaching was the biggest option I've been looking at. But with my internship, I learned there's other avenues I could take. I have applied for the Peace Corps, so hoping that that goes through and that will be my next step. But if not, I'll probably end up taking a gap year and applying for grad school. When I was in DC, I learned about a couple of fellowships. One was the Pickering Fellowship, and the other one was the Rangel Fellowship. And what they do is basically pipeline you into foreign service officers or ambassadorship positions, basically working in the State Department. So that's what I'm looking at right now. But I'm also trying to leave some room for flexibility.
Awesome. Yeah, I would just go ahead, Adisa. Yes.
Now I was going to say, Patah, you know, you got to do something with the writing, because your name,
That's what I was going to say.
Patah in ancient Egypt was the scribe, right? Didn't he take the notes? And he, you see him like he has that falcon neck, and he's out there with the pen. You know, he's very specific. So if I remember my Egyptology correctly.
Yeah. And what I was going to say with all of them, you know, all of you, don't discount when you're in the middle of a storm or in the middle of everything, whatever it is, like you don't really see yourself. You don't see yourself as almost, you know, like a few weeks from graduating or just finishing an internship or like trying to get in the Peace Corps. You're like too busy. Your nose is too close to everything. You don't see like the larger picture. But if you keep a journal, which I would, you know, encourage all of you to do, who knows? You might be 40 later or 50, and you might want to take that and work with a filmmaker or work with an artist or a writer and write your story, write a memoir, you know. And there's just, we don't have enough Black stories. You know, there's so many more Black stories that, and all of you are going to be accomplished. So I'll shut up. I think, you know, Rick, I see you joined us. I'm not sure if you're listening in, if you had anything you wanted to share, offer any advice. We got another 2 minutes before we leave the breakout.
I very, very impressed with all of the participants, especially those who are looking to go into education. I think that is the foundation of building, you know, not just more filmmakers or more people into media, but just, you know, just getting people to look at and understand the value of education and being able to use that as the way to find and open many doors. I mean, I got into filmmaking through banking. I mean, there's so many ways to get to your ultimate goal, but the one basic thing that we all have is higher education, and it's so important along the way. So no, I congratulate you all. And I think, Cheo, you said something that was very important that I think we all can look back in retrospect and say, you know, if I had just slowed down a little bit and looked at the whole picture before making decisions, sometimes that helps you make a more clear decisions, not necessarily a different one, but just so you have more transparency in what the next step is and what are all the things that come along with it. So I congratulate all of you for going through the process and getting to the place where you can make these decisions. It's not everybody who makes it, as you all know.
Yeah, I wish I had a gap year. Do we have gap years? I don't remember that.
There was no such thing coming up. You had to go through.
There's no such thing as a gap year. You was get your ass to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So I think we're gonna be coming back, and I think that some other folks in the other group will have some questions for you, Adisa, and we might end early, so.
Cool. Oh, can't hear you, Cheo.
Saying welcome back. I'm not sure if everybody's in this group yet. Let's see, Sade, did some people fall off or leave? Or do you know? I'm not looking at the.
Yeah, it counts down to the breakout room will close everyone out in 13 seconds.
Oh, I got it. Okay, so we'll just wait. You know, Adisa, I was at a shoot this morning at 5:30 a.m. at the lake. I'm tired, bro. We were shooting the sunrise scene for this Chaplain of Oakland doc, and man.
You told me about it. Yeah, you were doing it this morning. Yeah, I did an overnight in the Hollywood Hills on the show, man. I was supposed to,
Overnight.
yeah, it was overnight, brother.
Wow.
But
Hope you got overnight pay.
I know, right?
Okay.
It's good to be present for this. I just want to commend you too and take a moment to just congratulate, just acknowledge you for the hard work you're doing and for the betterment of our community. You know, for Black people in general. You've been doing this we talk about me and people in the craft for 20 years and consistency. You've been doing this for 20 years or more. No, you've been doing this longer than that.
We all been doing it. Not all of us, but we're, inspiring the next generation. But everybody's back. So welcome back. I know there were some questions for Adisa. And if people have any shares, Carrington, if the people had any shares that they want to do before the questions for Adisa.
Yeah, we got through all of our shares. I'm so excited. I'm hearing about these projects that all the people in my breakout room are getting started with. So I think we have some really hot filmmakers in the making.
Right.
And Cheryl wanted to tell me to tell you that she had to hop off and go to another event, but she thoroughly enjoyed it.
Great.
Yeah. So we're ready.
I know Aisha, am I pronouncing your name right? When I was in there, I heard you talk about some real interesting stuff. So is there anything and then Adisa wasn't in there, so maybe you can give us a small soundbite of the project you were recently working in, and then he may have some feedback or if you have questions.
Awesome, thank you, Cheo. So my name is Aisha. My artistry name also goes by the Aiko, which is the first two letters of my first and last name. And combined, it also means the love child. And I am currently working on a visual album. I'm exploring my realm in music. So this is the first time that I am producing, or I guess creating something for like myself as a client, which has been extremely interesting. But one of the questions that I had for you was in terms of having to battle the politics of Hollywood and large corporations. I've worked at NBC and lost my mind, to be completely transparent, because I was like, I just can't align with their morals and ethics and the way that they're approaching the way that they're creating film. And I know with you mentioned that the producer addressed a marketing issue in terms of your characters and you have to swap that out. And I just wanted to know how you're able to cope with that mentally and how that has changed the way you have crafted your film and like what you identify with in terms of why you want to create film. Because I know you also said your inspiration has been Spike Lee, who's also been known to be like, I'm gonna do it my way. We kind of talked about that in our breakout room as well. So I was just really curious in terms of how you navigate that, especially when we have to make money with this too.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your question. It kills your spirit. I mean, it just really, it kills your spirit. I mean, what can I say? I mean, when I was mentioning the marketing, I had worked so hard to make this movie and I spent so many years getting it together. And so when that question came up, I mean, I really had to do some soul searching. You know, did I want to make this movie? And the compromises I had to make. You know, I sought friends out, you know, counsel, people that knew me, knew my spirit. And what I came to was that I was going to keep the integrity of the story. So for me, the integrity was Lena, Black woman going out rescuing these girls. Had he taken that out and made her a white woman, and that was suggested to me. That was also suggested to me. That was a deal breaker. That wasn't the movie I wanted to make, and that's not something I wanted to partake in. So to keep Lena at the core, that was like that was important. And then we did some other modifications for the marketing, but that would have been the deal breaker. So I think to answer that, you know, you just have to know what you're up against. You're going up against the monster. And so there's going to be some, you know, some concessions, if you will. You know, there's a marriage, if you will, too, because these people also financing the movie. So it's not just a producer saying to me, you know, hey, you know, can you change this out because this is the way I feel. He's also attaching his money to it. And money people are very specific about, I want a return. I want a return. What's going to get me a return? And so I had ideas about, no, there's a global African market. People are going to attract this movie. But for them, they don't see that. And they don't see it in the numbers, not that they've done extensive research either, because, they just automatically discount us. And matter of fact, they discount our stories too. They don't even think our stories are that valuable. So it's always a fight. So, and I was telling this in the breakout room that I was in, to make a movie is an act of war. It's just an act of war, and Haile Garima, a touted independent filmmaker. He teaches at Howard University right now, but that's why he teaches, because he makes a movie. He did Sankofa. He's done a number of independent films, and he doesn't even deal with the Hollywood system. That's how he keeps his spirit intact. And so he does his independent films, and he feeds his family by teaching, right? But he puts his art out to the world, and his art, in the case of Sankofa, has made a tremendous impact on like thousands, millions of people. And one of the things when I did a workshop with him, and he told me, and I loved it, and I don't know if I haven't had this experience yet, but he talked about how people embraced that movie, how Black people, he had to four-wall that movie. He had to take it around the theaters himself. He had to, do his own marketing campaign. He had to go back to what was Oscar Micheaux was doing, back in the 20s, when he had to show his movie around and take it to Black theaters and people. So, but he said Black people embraced that movie. And he said there was no greater love affair. There was no greater high. There was no greater sense of accomplishment that he could have. And they took it. Not only did they took it, it's like, how you give birth, and then they took it. I'm like, so he didn't even own it no more. People started doing things with it. So in other words, I guess what I'm saying is to stay committed, in the sense of a Harriet Tubman or Malcolm X. I think you just have to find reward in that in itself, because there's going to be some pain if you try to just like, okay, I'm going to do the Hollywood thing and my thing. You're going to face some disappointment, some major disappointment. I did this film independently. Hollywood wasn't going to make this movie either. They just weren't going to make it, and I got another movie that I have now on Zimbabwe, and Rangers, Black women in Zimbabwe who are protecting the wildlife. I don't expect Hollywood to just jump on board and make that movie. But I'm ready for the fight, and it's a story I want to tell. I think the only thing we have to now deal with is the fact that we have to align ourselves with other people, who have the sort of similar passions that we have. And then you also just have to be realistic about when Haile did Sankofa, it may take him 5 years to do another movie. Yeah. Julie Dash, when she did Dollars in the Dust, why doesn't she do another feature for another 20 years? You know what I'm saying? Like Julie Dash, one of our greatest filmmakers, Black woman, Daughters of the Dust, masterpiece. She can't do a movie. Hollywood, so that's just sort of the landscape.
Let's talk about. Sorry to interrupt you, but you have really, really strong points, because what we're seeing now is a resurgence because of tech. Tech has pushed, the availability of more platforms. So there's so many more platforms and opportunities that filmmakers can now get their work out. So whether it's Hulu or Amazon or Daughters of the Dust for years was just like, it was a Criterion Collection. You couldn't even get it. Now it's on, I think it's on Amazon. But I wanted to open it up to see if anyone else, I don't know if Shamar or Sammy, who, by the way, been, ride or die with us. Thank y'all. Y'all been from the beginning coming on these Zoom calls. We appreciate it. I don't know if you had any questions or wanted to share what you're working on. And I'm not hearing anything, so I guess not. So
can I hop in real quick, just talking about production?
Yeah.
I know I just went, but so I guess one of the questions, and this could be for anyone really, but I am curious to know like how, as independent filmmakers, we all know that Hollywood isn't going to be funding the films that we want to fund. I mean, now with, these buzzwords about diversity and equity, blah, 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 like they're going to do it for the sake of just the name game, that's on social media and the new phase of marketing. But I do want to know in terms of production, like how can we, develop a financial stability within our community to fund them. I know there's like Indiegogo and like different crowdfunding sources, which is like a helpful way to navigate that as well. But especially in a time now when I guess for some people the economy is crashing. I know like gas prices in LA is a nightmare. And so I guess, how do we move away from Hollywood and basically create our own? Because that's kind of the point that I'm at right now. I don't want to wait for them because I know they weren't meant to support us anyways. So I've kind of come to an acceptance of that, but I've also had troubles of falling flat on the ground, especially in the past year because I've walked away from so many things. But also trying to rebuild that and create that equity for us to fund what we need, the stories that need to get out there.
So before I'm trying to moderate something. So Aisha, that's a really good question. I'm letting Adisa address a little of it, but I also want to say we have a full seminar on financing Hollywood, financing films. Like you will get the Hollywood perspective, you will get the indie perspective, and there's a film professional film veteran, somebody who is doing that exactly right now, who's doing that, and that's Peter Roach. You see him; he's in this room. So he's got a lot. Maybe Roach, maybe just give her a little soundbite. I don't want you to sell everything to this because we got you next month. So,
well, and I'm excited to talk next month. There are layers to all of this, right? So. We have to kind of look at things from a different perspective than we looked at it 24 months ago. I mean, COVID changed a lot. There was very little that came good of it, but the good of it that came is that we get to gather like this and talk about opportunities that are out there for underrepresented filmmakers, and that I don't like to paint the picture that it's all bad, because content is king, and if you make good content, it will get out there. It will find the light of day. We see it happening all the time, and then you have to ask yourself, like, where am I going to draw the line in the sand for what I want to do? Because some people had to commit themselves, like Adisa said earlier, to making one film a year. And then you look like a guy like Kenya Burris, Blackish, Black AF, and then he does a movie like Cheaper by the Dozens with Disney. Why did he do that? Because it was just an okay film. I mean, he made it with Gab. It's on Disney Plus right now, but he made $2 million. So now he doesn't have to worry about whether the lights are going off or whether somebody's going to come repossess his car. And he can look at big indie movies that he can then be part of the pipeline to make it. One of the things I say to all the folks that I mentor, that I work with, is that when you stay to the end of the film, one name doesn't come up. Dozens of names come up, because it takes a village to make a film. And so sometimes those people are very learned in the industry, and sometimes those people have never been in the industry and then get their first foray. Let me give you a couple of great examples. Larry Ellison is the CEO of Oracle. He knew that he wasn't going to be able to get into the film game. So he gave that ball to his daughter, who was 22 years old. And at that time, when his daughter started looking at film, she knew that it was all about the scripts. So she took in for 2 years, she just looked at film, at scripts, got a whole team to do that. So when she made her first 2 movies, because she had looked through thousands of scripts, she made Lincoln and she made Lincoln and Hurt Locker. Why? not because she was a great filmmaker, not because she had 20 years of experience, because she looked at the right scripts. Content and these type of, and I'm telling you, I'm sure Adisa can tell you how many times he rewrote his script, because that's really the basis of the success of where you're going to get your funding. A good script will get funding. So when I talk to people who have been in music or they're athletes, they know that content is king. And if you can write a good script, it will get the light of day. It will definitely get the light of day. That's why Spike Lee is who he is, because he had great scripts, not great talent. Talent finds the scripts. That's it. I can't impose on you enough to write. And when you don't think it, and when you think it's good enough, write it again. And then that will make it better. But there's money out there everywhere. It's in Silicon Valley, it's in Hollywood, there's money out there. You just have to be able to make the right alliances, understand where you are, understand the type of film that you're gonna make, and to the audience you're gonna make it to. All Black, TV One, BET, they're looking for women-generated content. You gotta know who is looking for what you're making. Thrillers, holiday movies, rom-coms, indie movies that are cutting edge like Adisa's. There are places that are looking for your content. So instead of trying
to cut you, let me shorten you up, because you're giving away too many of the jewels.
All right.
You're running the jewels too early, bro. Running the jewels too early.
You know I can talk all day.
I know. So, but you know what? The frame is perfect, because there are people on this call, myself, I'm a filmmaker, obviously, but I'm not only that, right? There are people who are in healthcare. There are people who are finishing college. There are people who are going to go into technology, whatever. But to your point about that list, and we have one on the last slide of this deck, there's so many names, right? And depending on the genre, if it's like a Marvel movie, forget it. You're going to be there watching those credits for 20 minutes. But a lot of those people, are they filmmakers? So I think we need to really think about the frame in which you're saying a filmmaker. Filmmaker is not just the production people. Filmmakers are not just people walking with cameras. Filmmakers, people who are in the business of filmmaking, are producers. Some of them never have even picked up a camera. Some of them are just EPs and they're writing checks. Some of them are, it's a gamut. They're artists. Some of them are dancers. It's a full production of kind of creating stories that have every element. And so I think if
it's very much like sports. You don't have to be Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
You don't have to be LeBron James, but you can be like LeBron James' best friend, who's 5'4" and dating Adele, but is one of the most powerful sports agents in the business now. So there are so many places you can play. There are so many, like we watched the trailer. My guys over at Buddha Jones, that's all they do is trailers. And they do it very well. Superman, Batman, they've done all those trailers. So when you talk about the business, don't limit yourself to be like, I've got to do the A to Z.
Carrington has her hand up. Go ahead, Carrington. We got about 5 minutes.
I just quickly wanted to add to this conversation. I was just scrolling, on Twitter, and I don't know if everyone's seen the Kanye trilogy documentary or docuseries. Adisa, have you seen it? Great. And there's a lot of conversations about it after it came out, and one of them was, not everybody's a Kanye. Some people are a Cootie. Some people are the Cootie, picking up the camera, doing the work on the back end, doing all the, playing all of these different roles. And I just thought this fit perfectly into this conversation. But yeah, it takes a village to create.
Definitely a great point. And it also, if you look at that Cootie example, talk about sustainability and like passion and not giving up. I mean, he's sitting on 20-year-old footage plus. So,
and you know what? Most people wouldn't have done that. Most people wouldn't have kept going. He said he couldn't get in touch with Kanye at some points. He lost his number. I mean, that in itself, you'd have said, whoa, you know. So it takes this business, and we talked about it, you know, I've always said it's like an act of war wanting to make a movie, especially as a person of color. But it takes something. You know, it just does take something. And I'd rather you know about it now than later, that it takes something. It's not just I want to write or I want to direct. No, it takes something. You got to go to some places of some strength, some fortitude, you know how actors get rejected, directors get like that, writers get like that. I mean, you know, you almost got to go through 100 before you even get up to bat. It's like I went through 100. Okay, now I'm ready to hit over the fence. So, but it's worth it. It is worth it for sure.
But I'm going to say this, and we can talk about more film financing next week. But
next month,
next month, and Jay has heard me say this before. I was just in London, and when I was turning on TV, I'm watching all the things that I'm seeing here. When I was in South America a few weeks ago, no, 2 months ago, I was seeing the same thing I'm seeing here. So right now, technology has caught up with the viewership. So there are more people seeing the same thing at the same time than ever before in media. That means more people get to show their content to the world. The opportunity that you all have that we didn't have is 180 degrees different. You've got several different platforms, from streaming to internet to, you know, theatrical to video on demand, all these things, YouTube. These things are platforms that we did not have. We had 3 ways. You can go straight to video, you can go to network, or you can go to premium TV. Now you've got 20 different ways. So if you can make the right content, you can get it exhibited, which is something that we couldn't have said, you know, 5 years ago. So if there's anything I would say is that it's hard, but it's much doable in a shorter period than it was before. So if you can work your ass off, it can happen. That's all I'm telling you.
Yeah, yeah. All right, well, I think if we have any final questions for Adisa, otherwise we're gonna share a quick a slide on that, but if there's any final questions, we can put those up now, or you can ask them. Otherwise, we will take this opportunity to promote StoryLab seminars for next month, and I'll let Carrington, if you wanted to.
Absolutely. Yes, so stay tuned for next month's StoryLab event. This one we'll be hosting filmmaker Peter Roach, who is the founder of Media Focus Group, a firm that develops funding opportunities using private equity, venture capital, and other resources to help filmmakers get their films produced. So I will be dropping a link to this event in the chat, and this is right on topic to what we were just speaking about. So we encourage you all to use the link and RSVP.
Please do. And I don't know if it was helpful. We've had people have some challenges getting into the Zoom last month, but was it helpful to get the Zoom this morning, right before, kind of put it on your radar? We sent the invite out this morning, so we can do that next month if it's helpful.
Yeah, that was cool.
All right. Well, maybe look, I got you out 10 minutes earlier, and I was gonna say I can take you out with some music, but I think we had
one more slide. Yeah,
one more slide.
One more after this.
One more after this.
Yes. So Sade, I know you're on the back end. There's a small rectangle at the bottom of the screen. So if we could just move that. That shows where you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter, as well as our Facebook, which is Game Changers Films. So yeah, give us a follow. I run the accounts, so you know, we'd love to see you all engaging with us in the comments and all that good stuff. So thanks again.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your attendance. Tell your friends, tell your cousins, all relations. We'll see y'all next month.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It was an awesome.
Adisa, man, you were great. You like, this is the most people we've had.
You're awesome.
So yeah, Rick, you got an act to follow.
It's gonna be hard.
Look at you, boy. James Brown had to follow somebody at one point too, so, before he became James Brown.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all have a great one. Keep writing.
Yeah. And Rick, we gotta get you on a call because we got another pitch we're doing with Girl Dad, and we want to get you, update you with some stuff.
Please do. Please do.
All right, everybody.
Okay.
Take care.
Okay, great.